History of the A.M.E. Zion Church in America, founded in 1796 in the city of New York, compiled and published by Jamison Moore, D.D., Bishop of A.M.E. Zion Church. Preface. The ministers and laymen of our beloved Zion have anxiously waited for years for an extended history of our church, a work indispensable to a proper knowledge of our origin, the cause of our organizing as a distinct body of Methodists from the Methodist Episcopal Church, our established government, our progress, and our present standing. Not only is such a work desirable among our own ministry and laity, but there are tens of thousands that are friendly to our church who desire to have our church history. There are none of our members who properly reflect upon the subject, but feel that we cannot maintain our true ecclesiastical standing without a reliable history of our church. For the want of such a work, we are frequently being misrepresented in other church histories or religious encyclopedias that get their account of our connection from unreliable sources. Therefore, has the author, at the instance of the Board of Bishops, undertaken the work of publishing such a history. There is no branch of common literature that men attach greater importance to than history, because it is the universal registry of all the known developments connected with the origin and progress of our planet. It furnishes each succeeding generation of men with all the doings of the past that have come under its observation and that have been preserved in its archives. Without it, the past of the great cycles of time would be to us and all coming time or generations a blank. History is properly divided into two general classes, sacred and profane. Sacred history is divided into two branches, biblical and ecclesiastical. Biblical history furnishes us with all those events connected with the origin and progress of our world, necessary to be known by man, which could only be divinely given by inspired writers. Ecclesiastical history furnishes us with the origin and progress of the various religious organizations or outgrowths of Christianity from its origin to the present. Ecclesiastical history is necessary to note and transmit the origin, doctrines, rules, and regulations developed in all the religious organizations that have arisen in Christendom, that men might have a full knowledge of whatever in the establishment of sacred and divine things would most redound to man's earthly and immortal well-being. That in the light of revealed truth, as furnished in the scriptures, he might accept or reject religious tenets. Therefore is church history important and indispensable. It furnishes a perpetual record of the Christian church with all its varied developments and denominational distinctions. Church history does not only benefit the religious body whose internal record they are, but they secure a popular judgment upon religious tenets and give general scope to the investigation of religious truth or error as might be disseminated by religious bodies. In denominational branches of church history, it is not the province of the historian to indulge in criticisms or animadversions on the creed fundamentals of other religious sects. Under this conviction, in furnishing our church history, I shall aim simply to set forth facts connected with the incipient incentives to our establishing an independent religious body, with the attendant measures, movements, success, reverses, and our progressive developments for 88 years. It is proper that Christians would have some knowledge of the principles that incited us to seek a separation from our white brethren and to worship by ourselves. We were actuated by pure Christian principles. We were fully conscious of certain great truths that the Bible taught, upon which our course would be justified in the judgment of the Christian world. The first great religious truth that awoke our reflections and incited us to action on the subject of our own separate organization was that Christianity has provided a platform of brotherly love sufficiently broad to admit all Christ followers to a full religious fellowship and religious association, a platform so broad as to exclude the necessity of caste or race proscriptions to prevent their Christian association as a religious brotherhood being a religious social detriment. Having settled upon this great truth, we felt no hesitancy in seeking to establish ourselves in an organization with a religious platform where no race proscriptions or frictions could restrict our religious privileges, enjoyments, and interrupt our brotherly associations as the followers of Christ. The second great truth taught by Christianity, another grand incentive to our determined purpose in establishing our own separate organization, was that the gospel of Christ intended and provided that men converted to Christianity and called into the work of the gospel ministry, that such men had a right to and should engage in the work of evangelizing mankind, irrespective of their race or caste. Fully conscious of this great truth, we felt it our privilege and our duty to put ourselves in a position to enjoy this Christian privilege. A third essential or important truth that prompted us in our conception and purpose of a separate and independent organization was that the Christian church was a religious compact that could be organized in separate local societies under such forms of local government as circumstances might dictate, and that each member of such local organization had an equal franchise in the formation of their ecclesiastical constitutions or local church governments. There was to us the conception, in the light of divine truth, that Christian men and women had a common and Christian right to take part in legislating for their own government. To secure the advantage of this principle, we were still further induced to form an independent and separate organization from the Methodist Episcopal Church. To secure this great fundamental principle, an inherent right in man, either in secular or religious government, we have in our ecclesiastical economy secured to laymen a representation in our legislative department as well as in the judicial. These are some of the radical considerations that led us to determine upon the establishment of a separate or independent religious organization from the mother church, the A.M.E. Church. In addition to what has been given on the cause or origin of this body, the following history furnishes information as to movements, measures, successes, reverses, and progressive developments during our 88-year history. John J. Moore.